Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Changing the Narrative. I am Elizabeth Rouse here with my fabulous co host from Down Under, aka Washington State.
Murray Elborn. I think like I used to live in Sydney in Australia and Washington State, obviously in America, and I think they're both a little similar to the equator line, but very different weather patterns, which is very interesting.
That is really interesting. Murray, I want you to tell our viewers, because you were very excited to tell me about this.
Mm.
Explain your fit today and why it's special to you.
Well, first of all, we should talk about the fact that we got some fan mail this week, which is very
I
exciting.
love that you're excited about that, and I just want you to talk about
Right.
test
But
cricket.
it's relative, right? Because
I
the
love it.
fan mail we got was from an English lady named Lena, and
Absolutely.
she loved our dating episode and said how relevant it was.
Well,
So shout out to Lena, but Lena's not going to be very happy when I do talk about the next thing. I am wearing a Cricket Australia Sport for All shirt.
mhm,
And in Australia, cricket is like the baseball in America.
mhm.
And in the long form of the game, which is 5 days, which Americans just can't get their head around, is how do you play something for 5 days and you might not have a winner? That's the Australian way. We love to play cricket. We pride ourselves on being the best cricket team in the world. We actually won the Test Cricket World Championship Challenge for the last two times, beating India and last time South Africa. So multiple
Mhm.
time world champions. And we have been playing England, which is our
Mhm.
rival. We've been rivals since, and we all come from England really because we're prisoners, and more joke on them for sending us to Australia and them having to keep living in England. But anyway, uh, we beat them badly the last two test matches. And so shout out to the Aussies. Miss you guys. Been watching live for the test matches until 3 a.m. in the morning, which isn't very productive for my sleeping habits. But yeah, I love it. And we love beating the Poms. It's great.
There you go. Well, I'm very happy for you. I'm very sad for Lena if she is a fan of cricket, but I'm very excited that she is tuning in and listening to our episodes. Thank you so much, Lena, and the rest of you all for joining us this week. I do have to point this out, Murray, because I love to pick on you. It's one of my favorite hobbies.
Mm.
You did one of my biggest ick factors in the world, and that is you said 3 a.m. in the morning. You can either say 3 a.m. or you can say 3 in the morning. You don't need to say 3 a.m. in the morning. That's
So,
correct.
so just back to the ick factor.
Yeah.
There was I don't know if you've ever seen this show or not. This would be right up your alley, this show. It's called
Mhm.
Married at First Sight. They,
Yeah.
they do have an American version, but it kind of sucks compared to the Australian version. And in the Australian version, we had this guy who was on like 2 years ago, and he had this thing called the ick factor.
Uh-huh.
And basically, everything that the woman that he was partnered with did, he was like, that's on the ick factor scale, and the ick factor's high. And he just basically hated this girl, and the girl kind of really like adored him. And he
Aw.
eventually got over his ick factor and decided to be a human being towards the end of the show, which was really great. But yeah, your ick factor really kind of just raised my thing. And I just want to reinforce things to people. So I say 3 a.m. in the morning to reinforce it's 3 a.m.
You make me sick. Okay, speaking of ick factors, we're going to move into today's episode, which can be an ick factor for some of our viewers, right? We're going to talk about the realities of shopping as a blind person. We found that this was a very timely topic in that we are rapidly approaching the 2026 winter holiday season. And we're going to kind of stick our toes into the world of both online shopping and in person shopping and how those things are navigable for people who may have some troubles seeing the products that they are looking at. So, Murray, I'm going to lob this to you first. How do you shop? What is your preferred tactic? How do you approach it so that it doesn't feel overwhelming to you?
Well, I actually love shopping, which is interesting, right? Because a lot of the girlfriends that I've had and my wife do not like shopping, actually.
Tammy doesn't like to
No,
shop?
does not like to shop. She likes to go
Really?
in and get what she wants and then get out. And I like to browse. I'm a browser. I
Mm-hmm.
like to,
Mm-hmm.
peruse and look at everything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's very different. And I've always been that way. I just like doing it.
Yeah.
But when I lost some vision, it became more challenging to get around and do all the stuff and really see things in the shops. And so I
Mhm.
transferred to more of an online shopper. And honestly, now I'm probably 70, 30% online shopping. Amazon is my
Mhm.
friend and I
Mhm.
use it all the time. And it just makes it so much easier for me to be able to just get stuff delivered to the house and
Mhm.
have an account and look at whatever I want. So I would say that transition, especially over the last kind of 3 to 5 years, has really taken place a lot.
Okay. So how do you successfully Amazon shop? What does that journey look like for you? Let's say I'm after an air fryer
Yeah.
or something like that. How do you navigate that process?
Description, making sure you're putting in the right descriptions. Usually there's a video that you can look at, or a description in the accessibility portion of the description of
Mhm.
whatever the product is. And
Mhm.
so I think just making sure you've got the right product, or if you just want air fryers and then you're going to look at what the different air fryers are, you can go that route as well. But like for me, I'm a Christmas nut. I think we talked about that last
Yes.
weekend.
How many Christmas trees are you up to right now?
Well, sadly to report, we had a death in the family. Frosty the Snowman, my
Oh
14-foot
no.
Frosty the Snowman that looked amazing, fell over in a 70-kilometer an hour, a 70-mile-an-hour
Oh
freak windstorm
no.
and ripped his nose on the outdoor Christmas tree that we have, right from the eye to the mouth, basically. And so
Oh.
we're trying to patch poor Frosty up. He's in triage at the moment, getting some
Oh.
care. So yeah, as an example, at Christmas time, about 2 months ago, I just put in Christmas, and that was
Mhm.
my biggest mistake because then I found a whole bunch of things that I would never have purchased, and I purchased them. And I think my Christmas shopping list was about $800 on Amazon this year.
Well, not that we would ever try and replace your dearly beloved Frosty, but I would like to petition the masses. I vote Grinch next if you're looking to add to your collection. Preferably a Grinch with a little Max that goes with him. I think that'd be cute. My parents will not let me do the inflatables. That's like the one Christmas lights outside the house and the inflatables are the two things that they just will not give me as an adult, and I find it very sad.
Now, do you have a Grinch tree though?
I do not have a Grinch tree, but I do have a little figurine. I actually got this as a gift. Shout out to my friend Corb. Um, there's I don't even know what Menards would be called. It's got so many things in it. It's magical. That's what Menards is. And I found this Grinch that plays on a trombone, like it's animatronic, and it plays the trombone to "You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch." And I was obsessed with this thing for like weeks. And I almost bought it for myself and I didn't. And I was like, I don't need it. It's fine. And I literally think I mentioned it to Corb one time because it just brought me so much joy. And he quite actually bought me one and sent it to my house. And it is sitting with a Christmas tree in my hallway. And I play it sometimes just to feel joy. So no tree, but I do have a Grinch. So
I knew you'd have a Grinch.
yeah, I'm the Grinch. Believe it
Well,
or not,
no,
it's
I never said that. I
well,
just
I
said
did. It's
you would
okay.
have a Grinch.
I'll name it. I love The Grinch. The Grinch is the movie that I can sit and quote the entire thing of, which I realize is like the most annoying thing. So I never ask anybody to watch The Grinch with me besides my mom. But
Didn't you tell
anyway,
me that was Elf as well that you did?
I did realize last week. I okay, wait, did I have I talked to you since we went to Elf Trivia?
No, I don't believe so.
We got second place. We only missed two questions. It was just really unfortunate because they were the last two questions of the night. I kid you not, we were in the lead from minute one and we missed two questions. It was
How,
very
a scale
disheartening.
of 1 to 500, how angry were you that you missed
I
the last?
really wasn't that angry because it was just really fun. Like the last two questions were actually really challenging.
Yeah.
Um,
What
one
were
of
the
them
What
is
were the last two questions?
so one of them, and then we're gonna get back to shopping. One of them was when Buddy goes with Walter, his dad, to get a paternity test, he's looking at a poster of a skeleton and he says, huh, if you squint at it, it kind of looks like blank. So maybe we'll leave the blank there. And if any
Right.
of our super fans want to drop a comment with the answer, we'll add the answers next week. That was the first question. And then no cheating, please. Honor system, friends. And then
Right.
the second question, which you could wager
Everyone's
up.
looking up at GPT as we speak.
That's fine. That's their business. I'm not here to enforce. I do that enough with my fifth and sixth graders. The second question that was worth 15 points. You could wager up to 15 points. That last one was worth 5. What does Lynn Kessler want for Christmas according to the naughty and nice list?
Mm.
And nobody on my team, we just couldn't pull either of those answers. So we ended up losing by 8 points, but it was really fun. We had a really, really good time. So go out and play trivia, guys. It's a great time.
That's good.
Um,
Back
okay,
to
so
shopping.
shopping, yes. But please enjoy this commercial that was brought to you by the Grinch. So I can definitely appreciate the description. One thing that I found really challenging with online shopping, there are some things that I'm willing to do online shopping for. I am a firm believer in if I order it online, as long as I can return it, I'm willing to try it online, right? I've gotten some really nice sweaters that way. I've gotten some different factors that have played into that. But when I'm thinking of like appliances, right, I really like tactile buttons. And
Mm.
a lot of the time, I don't find that ads will say like, oh, this is all touchscreen or this has buttons. I really like to get into a store and feel that and play with that a little bit on my own independently. That is definitely something that I still go to. I will tell you, there's a really cool feature. And if you're a National Federation of the Blind member, you could previously, I don't know if this is still the case. There is actually a entity that you can use to do some online shopping. I can't quite remember the name off the top of my head, so shame on me. InnoSearch. It's called InnoSearch AI. Um,
No
and
shame on you anymore.
say that again.
No shame on you
No
anymore.
shame on, not for right now. Give me 5 minutes. I'll get it back up. Um, but you can actually type in like some search criteria and ask some specific questions. So if you like pull up a product, you can say, tell me, does this have tactile buttons? And it communicates with you in an artificial intelligence manner that kind of helps you answer those questions. So not something I've tried yet, but definitely something worth checking out. And if you're an NFB member, I believe there might still be a discount code for maybe some purchases with InnoSearch AI. So if you have not gotten your 12 to 14-foot inflatable Grinch, might be prime time to go check that out. So you said 70-30 split roughly. Okay.
But there's an exception,
Yes.
and your point was valid.
What's the
You
exception?
you like to go to the store and feel the buttons on the appliances. I
Mhm.
will not shop online for clothes. I will
Really?
buy clothes in the store. Yeah.
See, I'll bite the bullet if I can send it back. I'll tell you the two ways around online shopping. One that I think it's tried and true. I think shopping is exhausting, but when I'm built for it, like when it's a day and I'm like, I need a new pair of straight leg jeans, right? I have a couple of stores where I'm like, okay, I know I really like jeans here, here, and here. I'm gonna go look, right? Sometimes I'll have someone with me who can help read tags, who can help describe things. If I don't hesitate to call on like a shopper's assistant, right? I will walk up to a store employee. Hello, how are you today? My name's Elizabeth. Here's what I'm looking for. Is there any chance you could help me find that? Um, you can get even more in depth with supports if you're doing something like grocery shopping, right? Visiting the customer service counter and saying, hey, could I please have a shopper's assistant? Makes navigating the store very easy. And we can dig more into that in a minute. The other thing that I found, and if Stitch Fix would like to sponsor this episode, please call me. I'll take a credit or two. Murray will take a credit or two, and then he'll just give me his if he doesn't want them. This is an app that my mom actually introduced me to when I was still in college. Stitch Fix allows you to create a style profile, and for like a fix fee, I believe mine is $20 per fix. They will actually send you, based on your style profile, like items that they think you will enjoy. Um, and I have mine to set like every 2 months. So I might say, hey, I need a new pair of heels, or I need a pair of dress pants, or I'm really looking for dresses that can be worn to work or on the weekends or whatever. And they will actually curate looks for me based on pieces that I've gotten from them previously and or new items to add to my closet. And you can set all sorts of preferences on price limits and things of that nature. Super fun. And if you send everything back, if you try it on and you just don't like it, they have the shipping label like in the bag. You just get to send it back and you're only out that $20. However, if you keep an item, that $20 is deducted from the price of the item. So if you buy a sweater and it's $40, that $20 is counted toward that $40 sweater. So if anybody's interested in trying that out, drop Marie a message and I'll send you a join code. And then I think we both get like $25 off or something like that. It's super fun. I've recommended it to a bunch of my friends, sighted, blind, and it's very successful. I think people like it a lot.
You should be a Stitch Fix agent.
I kind of love it. I'll tell you what, one of my favorite parts of it is you can actually have the same stylist. So like if you get a Stitch Fix stylist that you really like, you can say like, hey, next month I'd really like the same stylist, or no, I'd really like to try somebody new, or surprise me. And when you get a stylist that hits, like I've had to break up with stylists because they hurt my wallet too much. I'm like, you're too good at your job. I need a new person so I can send something back. So
kind of a cool theory though. Like I haven't thought too much about that, but to your point, like I haven't used shopping assistants much either. Like if I'm in the store and I can't find something, sure, I'll go up to someone, but I haven't gone to a customer service counter and said, hey, can you assist me to shop if like groceries and things. That's kind of cool. Do you know, and we maybe should have done some research around this, so how bad, but do you know of stores that actually do that and offer that as a service?
a lot of grocery stores do. That's the biggest one that I'm the most familiar with. And I will tell you, sometimes it's really hit or miss, right? Unfortunately, I've had shopping experiences where they give me somebody who frankly isn't quite literate, right? A person who may have another disability who they hire to do some of their stocking or different things like that. And they don't really think about how that could influence, like, hey, if I'm asking questions about brands, or if I'm asking questions about ounce counts, different things like that. If I want a 12-ounce can of marinara sauce versus a 22-ounce can, it's guessing if you don't know how to read those labels all the time, right? That can be.
Can I just tell you that if you had me as a shopping assistant and you asked me for a can of, how do you pronounce it again?
Marinara.
Yeah, I'd be saying, do you mean marinara?
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what I mean. You self-pompous man. What are you doing? That's I love you.
We had a conversation about Italy and Italy the other night. Anyone who says Italy, you're off the podcast list. All right, hang up now. Don't listen any further.
It's Italy.
It is Italy, but a lot of people say like Italian, right? It's not. If it's not Italy, then it's not Italian. It's Italian and it's Italy.
Wow. I've never like sat down and contemplated that. Okay, so we're new plan. You're not automatically voted off the podcast, but you have to take us to Italy so we can like do some research.
Yeah, we can research the locals.
Yeah, collect data.
Whilst we're eating pistachio, what's the ice cream that they have?
Gelato.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
So when I was in Rome, Tammy's like, would you want some gelato? And I said, no, it was raining. It was still warm, but it was raining. And I'm like, no, I don't feel like gelato. She's like, well, just take a bite. It's really good. And I ate the rest of her cup. It was so fantastic.
Okay. So this episode now sponsored by Pistachio Gelato. We're just really raking up the sponsorships.
We are.
I love this. So yeah, a lot of grocery stores. But what I found is like clothing stores, particularly if it's not super busy, right? A lot of folks are really willing and able and helpful, right? If you ask. If you don't want to ask, right? Or you're a little shy, I really find it encouraging, right? To say, hey, I'm looking for jeans in this size. Okay, do you have any shirts that you think would look really nice with this? If you look at like my complexion, my hair color, my eye color, things like that. They're intimately familiar with what is in their stores. And this is also an instance I think we talked about on a previous podcast episode. Like if you're a person who's gone through and like figured out your colors, right? I'm a winter, I'm an autumn, et cetera, et cetera. This would be a perfect time to say like, I'm looking for anything that's close to this color, right? If you want to try something like that out. It does really help in those instances, particularly with clothing shopping, if you know things like your size. Waistlines, for example, in jeans can be really confusing. Sometimes I'm a 4 and sometimes I'm like a 28, 32 or whatever the weird size conventions are. So the more information that you have about your own wardrobe, the more successful you're going to be. Right. And then it's just a matter of getting in, trying things on, see what feels comfortable, see what helps you feel confident. And kind of taking it from there. I mean, you can always ask for people's opinions, just take it with the grain of salt that they might be trying to sell you something, right? So trust but verify is kind of my vibe there. But I find myself a unique mix between you and Tammy Marie. I I'm going to say most of the time, I'm not like a get in and get out shopper. Like, I'm the person that's like, it's 1 p.m. on a Saturday. Notice that I didn't
Someone should make a song about that.
notice that I didn't say 1 p.m. in the afternoon on a Saturday, please.
No,
Thank you.
because you don't like
Um,
reinforcing to people. That's fine.
I'm gonna go to Costco.
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, I'm the crazy weirdo that thinks going to Costco on a Saturday is a good idea. Just put
What's wrong with you?
I
That's
know
the
lots of things.
first
That's what
question.
we'll do an entire podcast episode about that later.
What's
Okay.
wrong with you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do a total podcast about going to Costco on a Saturday, because after you go around the car park for 45 minutes to try and find a spot, and then you wait in line 15 minutes to get in, then
Yeah,
you
there's no
shopping.
lines. There's no lines at my Costco to get inside.
Oh, you live in Iowa.
Very short. So anyway, I'm the kind of person that goes to Costco on Saturdays. I love just taking a stroll around Costco, right? And I don't care if it's the grocery part of Costco. I love the like doorbusters. I love the clothes at Costco.
Now,
I have now started. What'd you say?
are you using your cane?
Yeah, absolutely.
And how many people are on average are you bashing into?
Honestly, not that many, and I think part of it is
bags have
probably
been
they
into
get out of the way of my
Costco on a
cane.
Saturday? You know
Maybe
what?
that's why. Maybe
started-
that's why people should take me to Costco on Saturday.
I think
'cause I'll
that's
get 'em
why
out
your
of the way.
Costco doesn't have many people in it, because you've probably already bashed people around the sides, and they're like, "Well, I don't want to go there on a Saturday because that woman likes to go there and she's going."
I'm really okay with that. If that's my service to the rest of the Costco patrons, I'm fine with that.
Right.
I do like to play the really fun game. Now, every time I walk into Costco, I'm like, okay, freeze frame. How many things in my current wardrobe are from Costco? And the average number is somewhere between 2 and 3. I buy my socks at Costco.
Yeah.
This vest is from Costco. I'm
Yeah.
a Costco girl through and through.
Yeah.
I love Costco. So
I do have an affinity for Costco, and their clothes are actually pretty reasonably priced
they
and
are.
good. So
I got a pair of dress pants there for $4 one time. I'm a bargain shopper. That's like my favorite thing. I love finding things on sale.
I was just looking over at my email while we're on the podcast, and I have an email from my US bank that says my wife has activated a pays checkout for online holiday shopping.
What does that mean?
He's about to spend money, which isn't good.
Buy new trees, Tammy. Buy a 12-foot Grinch.
He does not need any new trees, trust me. We have 11 up.
There you go. Okay, so one other thing that I will toss out before I lob this back to you to see if there's anything that we've missed in the realm of shopping. One thing that I have found really helpful, particularly when I'm looking online for products, is something like, let's return to our air fryer example, right? I do not hesitate to reach out, in circles that I am a part of from a blindness perspective to say, hey, y'all, I'm thinking about buying an air fryer. Does anyone have one that they really like? Does anyone have one that they really don't like? Right? I really enjoy getting product recommendations from people who I know, who I trust, and frankly, who I know have a somewhat similar level of blindness skill set to me, right? Because sometimes you can get a product that's really great for one person that isn't for another person. And I think that's when asking those questions and knowing kind of what you want to know can be super, super helpful. So I just wanted to toss that out. Never anything wrong with that, right? Even if it's like, hey, I'm going to text somebody from my affiliate chapter, or I'm going to text that one person that I met at the performing arts division meeting one time, or whatever it is, right? I think those are really good communities to tap into. And I hope you all feel welcome to do that. If there's anything that you're looking for beyond Stitch Fix, if you are looking for something and you're like, I just don't know who to ask, right? You can ask us. Our other super fan, Eric, says we're pretty funny. So we'll try and take a break from our stand-up comedy routines to give you a straight up answer to see if we can help you problem solve through that.
But factual and funny, I think. Factual and funny.
Factual and funny. We're all the Fs. I love it.
All the Fs. Moving right along. I do think that's a good idea. I mean, I think it's a good tip that, if you're going to go out and you're going to buy something, researching is always good. And then obviously asking around who's using this product, what other products. We just bought a new air fryer, which I love. And I was never a fan of, by the way, is the air fryer with the opening doors at the front that open sideways. And then there's a really cool light detection with pretty good print on the right-hand side and a dial. So it's really easy to use. it's
Mhm.
spacious, and it works well. And so I was just telling my brother actually 2 nights ago, taking a photo of it for him and sending it to him and say, hey, this would be good for you. And so, absolutely, I think, especially if you can tap into other people with low vision and blindness, if you're worried about accessibility, if you don't use dots, you should use dots.
Bump dots.
Yeah, bump dots. And
Yep.
I'm obviously working with Microsoft on a couple of different workshops and
Mhm.
programs. And Microsoft has just come out with some really cool. I actually believe they're made by LG, from memory, but they have some really good different directional bump dots, uh,
Mm,
and different shape bump dots. So yeah,
yeah.
definitely be
And
using the bump dots.
if you're just getting into the very basics of bump dots, right? Like I use bump dots sporadically. Now that I'm thinking about it, like the only bump dot in my house might be on our ice machine. Actually, that's whack. I totally just got mine from the Independence Market. It's just a couple of random shapes. I've used them on washers and dryers before. You can put them on microwaves, you can put them on ovens,
Yeah, I think you
anything and
can even
everything
dollar
can be
store
really helpful.
type, bump dots that just bubble out. So, if you
Mhm.
don't want to get like the good stuff or like the expensive stuff, you can just go and get, something that bubbles out and just put it on your
Yep.
thing. And it's recommended. Like it makes a big difference. A lot of people, if you have bad vision, or low vision, and you don't have great lighting, or there's a whole bunch of reasons why you would use bump dots, but they're so adaptable to your circumstances, no matter what they are.
Definitely. Definitely.
See, factual.
Factual, 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 factual. All right. What are we missing? I think we covered a lot
Well,
of bases.
I want to know what your best shopping experience memory is. I'm,
Okay.
I am actually
Um,
this question because I can see the wheels turning.
this is a really okay. So I'm trying to fit like I've had very memorable shopping experiences, right? Like I've definitely gotten shopping assistants who are not literate. I would say one of my fondest shopping assistant memories when I was in training at the Louisiana Center for the Blind. Um, one of the instances where you get to go grocery shopping is for your meal for 40. And I organized my list. I'm the OCD weirdo who like puts together a grocery list and then organizes it by like the items that are grouped together in the store. All of my dairy is in one section, all my vegetables are in one section. Like that's my jam. Okay. I love being organized like that. And you're on a budget, right? I think it's like $120 or something like that. It might be $100. And I got dropped off and I just had the greatest time. And I think it was because in part, right, I had a very successful shopping assistant experience, right? It was just like a Walmart. It wasn't anything like big or fancy. But I was passionate about the project that I was pursuing. I was very excited. I will tell you a more recent and informal shopper's experience that I think is just hilarious. Okay. Murray has heard me talk about my puzzles a lot lately. Okay. So it's time for the rest of you to hear about my puzzles. I love to read. I absolutely love to read. And I saw on Book Talk a couple of weeks ago that there was some puzzles related to some of my favorite fantasy book series. And I am currently sitting in my office where I have quite literally one thing on the wall. It's a blanket that's on the wall behind me. I don't think you guys can see it. It is a blanket that I got for Christmas like 2 years ago that I use as decoration because it's an old timey bookshelf with a bunch of cats like all over the bookshelf, like in and amongst the books and ink pens and quills. And I think it's adorable. Okay. So I've been looking for other book themed decorations. Lo and behold, I found these book puzzles. I was like, I can put them together and then I can frame them, right? So I've got one from the Empyrean series that starts with Fourth Wing. I've got one from A Court of Thorns and Roses. It's the Starfall scene from A Court of Mist and Fury, the second book, in case anybody loves those books too. And I was gung ho to go to Target and get these books. Okay. So I'm walking around Target with my mom, and my mom's like, I don't see him anywhere. And I was like, okay, hold please. So I got out my phone and I literally just like, hey Siri, look for a Court of Thorns and Roses puzzle on target.com or whatever, right? I didn't look up the app. I just did a Google search. I found the product on Target's website. I changed the location of the Target that I was looking at to the one that I was visiting. And I was like, okay, it's in aisle A12. And my mom's like, we're in A12. Like, we're in the right aisle. And I was like, okay, you're clearly just not like seeing it. And I just started running my hands along the shelves, right? I mean, it was just an aisle of books. And I actually found the puzzles before my mom did. So I just thought it was this hilarious, like shopping assistant
And then did
flip
you
on its head.
take your mum onto Eyeglass World afterwards?
I did not. I did not. But it was just on an end cap that she hadn't walked past yet. But I was like, this is my super flex. And I
That's
ended up
very
getting
cute.
3 of the 4 puzzles, and I'm already done with one of them and over halfway through the other one. So definitely something that I've enjoyed. And I found out that they don't just sell them at Target, they sell them at Books a Million too. So if you're in the hunt for a good gift for a book lover in your family this holiday season, or you want to try your hand at a puzzle yourself, they can be done non-visually. I've literally put some of mine together in the dark, no matter how crazy and weird my brother thinks I am for doing so. So those are my fun shopper's assistant stories that I can think of. Those are the 2 most memorable, I would say, that I can share on family friendly television.
My favorite shopping experiences are for food. And
Of course they are.
when you have
Respect.
brands that you love, like obviously in Australia, there's so many things that I like leave behind that I just crave for when I'm in the States.
Yep.
And vice versa, actually, when I was in, I used to come back and do the food tour of America, as I would call it, and visit all of the restaurants that we don't
Mhm.
have in Australia and vice versa.
Mhm.
But when we go back to Australia, especially at Easter time, we have these things called hot cross buns. And it's kind of like a
That
soft,
was the first song I ever learned how to play on the recorder in fourth grade music.
really,
Yeah.
one a penny, two a penny hot cross buns.
Indeed. Nice.
Wow, look at you. Good job.
Yeah.
Uh, so hot cross buns, you guys don't have them here, but they're essentially like a brioche bun with like a hard kind of cross across them that you eat. And
Mhm.
anyway, they put different flavors in them in Australia. So you might have caramel apple, you might have
Oh,
um, uh, nuts and fruit, you might have chocolate chip. There's all these different things. They put candy bars in them now, cookies into them. So you get all these different flavors and they sell out real quick. And so you have to
yep.
like hunt the stores in to get what you want. But when you get them, man, it's like a rush. It's like a bit of a
It's like the Black Friday of food
yeah.
deals.
I will also tell you that when you come across something that you really love and you haven't had for a long time, and then you randomly find it somewhere, or somebody else
Mhm.
really randomly finds it for you somewhere and comes
Oh,
back and tells you, it's like a gold rush. It's like that
absolutely.
dopamine hit straight away.
Yep.
And so Fago, for those of you who love or have heard of Fago, which is a soda, I love peach Fago. It's like God's gift to soft drinks. And there is a Minute Mart in Spokane randomly. And what I love about it is not only do they have Fago, but they have a sign out the front that says they have Fago. So they know the drill. So there's
That's
just
so
two
interesting. Well, the
examples.
next time I come visit you, you're gonna have to grab me one because I've never heard of that before.
Oh man, Fago's
Peach or otherwise. I'm not a big peach person,
yeah.
except peach ice cream. Peach ice cream hits different. Okay. It hits different.
Peach ice cream does hit very different. And along those lines, a couple of years ago in Australia, about 5 years ago, they brought out ginger Coke for Christmas. So,
Ew.
well, you say that, but it was fantastic, and I
I
loved it.
don't like ginger though.
Well, I do. Anyway, so
I'm glad. There's more
I
for
have
you if I eat less.
so they have ginger beer in Australia, which is really popular, right? And it's made by
Mhm.
Bundaberg. So
Yep.
today I looked in my fridge and thought, oh, I have a can of Coke and I have a bottle of ginger beer. Let's experiment. And so
Oh,
I put
gross.
them together. And let me tell you, people, ginger Coke is the bomb. If you get a chance, do it. Don't do it with ginger ale, though. That is not going to taste very good.
You're hilarious. I'll tell you the weird thing that I tried recently. Weird by like my family standards. Have you ever had eggnog? Please tell me you've had eggnog.
Yes, yes.
I think it's pretty good.
I think it depends on how it's made.
I just tried it for the first time and I was like, "Ooh, light nutmeggy flavor." Like it was
Yeah.
not too much. I wouldn't want a whole glass of it, but it was a nice little
Shots?
sip
Is
sip
that what you have?
try.
Shots of eggnog?
Yeah, exactly. It
Yeah.
was good. It was a good time. So I maybe I'll do some online shopping and sip some eggnogging after I get my homework done.
Right. Well, any other shopping tips and tricks that we should tell our good listeners about?
That's kind of the hit or miss ones for me. Should we move into our resource share for the day?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I feel like we've already name dropped a lot, right? I mean, Stitch Fix, InnoSearch AI, um, Fago Soda, right?
Yeah.
There's so many.
Yeah.
But I think a really timely one for me, I'm sorry, I'm coming back to my puzzles. Um, the holidays can be a very stressful time of year. And I just really encourage anyone who's listening to just take some time to do things that rejuvenate you. I was telling Murray before we started recording today, I've had just kind of like a rough week and a half. And if that means instead of doing something super productive that like needed to get done yesterday, I take 30 minutes to do a little bit of puzzling and just like de-stress for my day, the world will not fall apart in the next 30 minutes, right? And that's something that I have to show myself a little bit of grace on. So find out what that is for you. If it's an episode of your favorite show, if it's making your favorite snack, if it's grabbing a peach Fago from Minute Mart, do what you need to do to take care of you, because you need to be around longer than the next 30 minutes. So that is my tip and trick for the day is just make yourself a priority this holiday season. How about you, Marie? What you got?
Mine is financial. It is do not stress yourself about buying presents for everybody. It
Mm-hmm.
is like we live in tough times financially. There's a lot of drain on our finances, and it is important not to feel like you have to be everything to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And people understand, because they're in the same boat. And I just think it's so important to reinforce that because
Mm-hmm.
it's company, right? It's sharing time with each other. It's playing fun games. It's doing
Absolutely.
puzzles. It's whatever it
Yeah.
is, eating, drinking, whatever. It doesn't have to just be around commercial shopping and buying things for everybody. And that's a really important message that I want you all to remember is people love people at holidays. It's not about what you bring, it's about who you are.
Yeah, there's a lot you can do with, creativity and a deck of cards, right? I love that
Yeah,
quality time angle. It doesn't
yeah,
have to be the biggest and the best. It can be the best to you. And sometimes that's, even more meaningful. So I
yeah.
love that. Thank you for sharing that.
And just games too. Like I want to do an episode on accessible fun things,
Okay.
and I just bought back from Australia Monopoly, the Braille version of Monopoly, and I have
Mhm.
playing cards and Uno cards and different things. But
Definitely.
I think it's kind of cool to just be able to do that with your family, right, and be
Mhm.
involved and do something fun over the holidays. So
Yeah.
it look
I'm the nerd that doesn't like New Year's Eve. I'd rather hang out like with a couple of friends and play board games. So maybe we can do that episode as one of our next ones of just
there you
like,
go.
fun at home.
Yeah, at home, absolutely. Sounds great.
Yeah. All
I'd
right,
also
stay
love
tuned
to
for that
do
episode.
I'd also love to do an episode about television and movies because there's some really cool series coming out.
Mm,
I want to ask you, do you watch a show called Pluribus?
I've never heard of it.
Well, you should go and look at it. It's made by the same people who did Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul,
Okay,
and
I've never watched either of those shows either.
okay. So same writer director,
Mhm.
and same actress that's in Better Call Saul. It's a very interesting show. It's
Mhm.
along the lines of like a Severance or that
Mm,
kind of model. So
okay.
I'm a bit addicted to it. Unfortunately, it comes out every Friday, so I'm looking forward to 2 days time.
There you go.
Yeah,
2 days time.
2 days
Awesome.
time.
Well, you wrap us up for the evening, and we'll say farewell to our friends until next time.
Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. Keep your comments coming. We love to hear them. Especially, I want to hear from all the England people who are really annoyed at their cricket team. Make sure you
Lena, don't let him talk smack to you like this. Clap back. We're
make,
ready.
make sure you hit me back. The next test is in a week's time. So good luck. Not really, but yeah.
Ugh, stop. Be nice.
All right, so we'll be back. Thank you, Lizzie. Good talking. Bye,
As
everybody.
always. See ya.